Good morning, and welcome to All People's Church, Unitarian Universalist. My name is Mary Ann Clark, and I will be your co-celebrant this morning. In the pulpit this morning is fellow congregant and longtime church member Paul Schottman. We also welcome a guest pianist this morning, Timmy Crawford. Thank you so much, Timmy. You all are welcome here, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background is. You are welcome here to join us in our spiritual journey. You are welcome to join us as we sing songs that uplift our very being. You are welcome to join us in community as we learn, live, and love together. All are welcome as we worship that which gives each meaning and value. No matter what you call this building, this hour, or this gathering of people, we worship as one body illuminated by the light of the chalice. If you're a visitor today and you haven't yet signed in, please do so. Near the front door at the visitors table, you can sign in, and that will give us the opportunity to acknowledge your visit and to place you on our mailing list to receive our weekly emails and our monthly newsletter. Before we continue with our service, we have a bunch of announcements. First, Easter festivities are here. An announcement was not made last week, but there is still time to donate canned goods for the Easter canned food hunt, and that reminds me, I've got some in my car. We ask that all donations are made by 9:20 a.m. on April 20th. The Easter Bunny will also be joining us on the 20th from 9 to 9:30, followed by a brief craft, a can hunt, an Easter egg hunt. If you are interested in making the magic happen, please contact Rain Brady. And Joe Burnham has an announcement.
Good morning, everyone. This is the second Sunday of the month, and this is what we've all come to know as Don't Forget to Feed Me Sunday. Don't Forget to Feed Me is an organization that makes sure that people of low income or elderly folks or single folks with children do not have to give up their pets. They make free food available to everyone, homeless people included. We are having the 5K run, 1 mile walk, and Sleepy Kitty event on the 26th of April. If you'd like to sign up, it's not too late. There's a poster on the window in the foyer. If you can give $1 or $2 today, it would be greatly appreciated by all of those folks who do actually get free dog and cat. Oh, I have a donor right here. Thank you, Michael Zapata. Give Michael a little applause. Thank you. And thank you all as well for any donation that you may be able to give today for our wonderful families and their little four-legged friends. Thank you.
Collins has an announcement. Leave it on, Patrick. It's going to be a while.
Okay. I just wanted to remind people that the second Sunday at 12:30 is our book group where we discuss the Texas Tough books. And this chapter today is about how there was a renewed civil rights movement in 1979 when 18,000 prisoners did a lawsuit against TDC. And it's a pretty exciting chapter, and Dan Levine's going to be giving the summary. So if you haven't read the book, please come to discuss it.
Thank you, Jane. And Dan Sexton has an announcement.
Hi, I'm Dan Sexton. I'm sharing. Other one. I'm sorry. Or I'll go over there. Okay. I'm Dan Sexton. And I'm chairing the stewardship drive this year, and I just wanted to say that you should have received a stewardship packet in the mail, and if you hadn't, let me know. There are also some packets out in the foyer that are available. So, and I just want to ask you quickly, consider what you can do for all peoples. Can you increase your pledge if you're newish? Can you start a pledge? And then can you consider making an automatic bank draft? Just wanted to mention those things. And a volunteer should call you to kind of remind you about your pledge and to answer any questions you might have about the pledge drive. Thank you all.
And we are giving thanks to Roy Redmond for leaving us the scaffolding that you can see at the back of the church, of the sanctuary. Thanks also to David Bindi for his long bed pickup to haul the scaffolding from the Redmond pipe organ warehouse to the church. And thanks to Jacob Green, Guy Thornton, Renee Ruel-Houteau, Kevin Stout, and Hunter, who put in a long day of hard work. Unfortunately, they couldn't finish because we didn't order enough film to cover all of the windows, but we did replace the blinds and they now open and close. Although when I tried to do it a while ago, and now, please settle comfortably for our musical prelude.
Tim, that was lovely. Well, there is an ancient Chinese curse May you live in interesting times. And there's no doubt about it, these times are interesting and causing a lot of people anxiety and anger. In response to that, some words adapted from the prayer of St. Francis. Great mystery, make us instruments of peace. Where there is hatred, let us answer with love. Where there is injury, let us grant and seek pardon. Where there is fear, let us bring courage. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sorrow, let us bring joy.
We now invite you to rise in body or spirit for the chalice lighting, our opening hymn, and the spoken affirmation. Our chalice lighting words this morning are from our Minister Emerita, Marjorie Montgomery. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. Please now join in singing our hymn of the month for April, hymn number 118, This Little Light of Mine.
Bring that back to you.
Please now join in our affirmation. The words are in the order of service and they're also on the screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer.
To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community,
to the end that all souls
shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Please be seated. The young and the young in heart are now invited to come forward for our time for all ages here at the front of our chancel.
Oops. Good morning. Welcome, young people. Glad to see you today. And Dean, and yeah, thank you, Jacob. Okay, our story today is called The Bremen Town Musicians. And there they are. I know.
And there's a real donkey.
It is, there is a real donkey. Okay. Oh. I need my glasses. Yeah. Sorry, everybody. Okay, there once was a farmer who had a donkey that had worked for him for many years. The donkey grew old and could not work anymore, so the farmer thought about selling him. "It's time for me to leave," said the donkey. "I still have a fine voice. I will go to the famous city of Bremen and sing with the town band." And off he set along the highway. He had not gone very far when he met a dog lying in the road and panting as if he were very tired. "What's the matter?" asked the donkey. "Ah," said the dog, "I've grown old and weak, and my master is thinking about getting rid of me. Now I have run away, but where shall I go, and what shall I do?" "Come with me," said the donkey. "I'm on my way to Bremen. You can bark and I can bray, and together we can sing in the town band." And so they happily went along the highway together. After they had traveled a short distance, they met a cat who was looking very sad. "What is wrong?" asked the donkey. "Ah," said the cat, "I can't catch mice anymore, and my mistress says that I am useless. So I decided to run away. But what will happen to me now?" "Come with us to Bremen," said the donkey. "You can meow, the dog can bark, I can bray, and together we can sing in the town band." And so all three went cheerfully along the highway. Not long after, they came upon a rooster perched upon a gate and crowing with all his might. "Why do you crow so loudly?" asked the donkey. "The farmer's wife says I'm too old to be useful anymore," says the rooster. "So I'm making as much noise as I possibly can before she puts me in the cooking pot." "Oh, no." "Why don't you come to Bremen with us?" asked the donkey. "You can crow, the cat can meow, the dog can bark, I can bray, and together we can sing in the town band." And so all four went along the highway, singing together. However, time was getting on, and the four friends knew they couldn't get to Bremen that day. When night fell, they came to a forest and decided to sleep there. The donkey and the dog settled down under the tree, while the cat climbed up into the branches, and the rooster flew up to the top of the tree and looked around. In the distance, he saw a spark of light. "Friends," he said, "I think there's a house nearby. Let's go and see if we can find some food." The animals all agreed, so off they went together. Soon they came upon a house with a bright light streaming from all the windows. The donkey went up to the house and peeped in through a window. "What do you see in there?" asked the rooster. "What do I see?" exclaimed the donkey. "I see a table of good things to eat and 5 fierce robbers standing around it." "I'd love some of that food," said the dog. "So would I," said the rooster. "But how do we get in?" At last the cat thought of a plan. The donkey put his front legs on the windowsill. The dog climbed onto his back. The cat climbed onto the dog, and the rooster flew up and perched on the cat. "Now," said the rooster, "let's all sing together." The donkey brayed, the dog barked, the cat meowed, and the rooster cock-a-doodle-dooed. Then they broke through the window at once and tumbled into the room with a terrible noise. The robbers were so frightened, they ran out of the house as fast as their legs could carry them. The four friends burst out laughing and dove into the food on the table. When they had eaten everything in sight, they settled down and went to sleep. Meanwhile, one of the robbers crept back inside the house. It was so dark that he stepped on the cat who spat at him. He tripped over the dog who bit him. He bumped into the donkey who kicked him. And then the rooster flew on top of him, crowing away. The robber was terrified and ran back to the others. A terrible old witch spat at me, and a fierce man stabbed me, and a huge monster kicked me, and a demon screamed in my ear. At this, the robbers all ran away and were never seen or heard from again. The friends were all so pleased with the house that they stayed there and lived happily ever after. And they never did go and sing in the Bremen Town Band. Thank you all so very much for being so kind and listening this morning. Now, could we sing Our Children Out, please?
They hit the candy dish on the way out the door. Oh, yes. Well, now a word from our sponsor. Friends, are you feeling down, moody, somewhat lost? Well, try new and improved stewardship. It will gladden your heart and fill your soul. The stewardship packets finally have arrived. No thanks to the mail department. And we hope you will all fill them out and return them promptly. But remember, we are not a wealthy congregation by any means. We do not have any members who are multimillionaires with deep pockets. Not that we would turn one away if one showed up, but in addition to money, which we need, there is also a stewardship of sweat equity, as demonstrated yesterday when several daring young men on a flying platform spent 6 hours working on the windows up there. There's always something that can be done around the church. You might have office skills that need dusting off, or you might want to pitch in the kitchen, or help Joel keep the grass and trees under control out there, or do simple maintenance work on work days here. It all helps. So don't think that we're trying to drain your wallets. We want a little bit, but we would also like you to consider volunteering your time and your talents to help keep this church the place of comfort and refuge that it is. I thank you.
The offering we take each Sunday is an opportunity to recommit to this place and to these people. It is as much a ritual as singing together, lighting our chalice, or reciting our unison affirmation. It is a reminder of that form of love we call generosity. It is how we show that we believe it is important to worship together to help our community and to say yes to the values of our faith. It is our custom to share the undesignated cash offerings that are collected each week. We do this on a quarterly basis for a nonprofit or a charitable organization. Our Share the Plate recipient for the second quarter of 2025 is the Underground, sponsored by Unbound Now, which helps victims of human trafficking. If you prefer, donations can be made using the QR code on the back of the order of service. The gifts of the congregation will now be most gratefully received. Will the ushers please come forward? Now, as you are willing or able, for our next hymn, number 189, Light of Ages and of Nations. Please be seated. At this time in our service, we pause to honor, to give time and attention to those things most important to us. We gather here for healing and for peace in our hearts, and to honor our time together with the shared stories and news from the congregation. Each week, there is a journal outside the entrance to the sanctuary where you can write a message of memory or hope before the service. We honor these messages by lighting 3 candles next to our chalice. Also, at any time during our service, you are welcome to come forward and light a candle in our meditation center here at the side of the chancel. In our book of memory and hope this morning, we have been asked to remember Andrew Fields wishes for the congregation to offer prayers and thoughts of healing energy for his 14-year-old nephew. His sister's son had a collision with a moving car on an e-bike he was riding several days ago on Thursday. Wow. We pause at this time to hold and honor the sorrows and celebrations among us, including those deeply felt but left here unspoken. Let us pause for a moment of silent meditation, and then Timmy will lift our heart with music.
To seek knowledge and freedom is a fundamental principle of Unitarian Universalism. We declare this to be a fundamental human right, the unfettered access to information, sources, and the free expression and open debate of ideas. It is, as it has always been, the one right that is under attack at all times, in all places. The assault takes many forms, chiefly through both legal and extra-legal censorship by a wide variety of institutions, by individual actors who may or may not be officially empowered to exercise censorship. Spencer Tracy has a great line in the film Inherit the Wind. It's actually a quote from the defense attorney Clarence Darrow in the famous Monkey Trials. Fanaticism and ignorance are forever busy and need feeding. Every so often, we and our fellow countrymen, frightened by the international crises or domestic crises or the pace or content of social change, frequently personified in politicians, panicked parents, school boards, and administrators of key institutions, rise up to defend our country from un-American authors, artists, and ideas. History, they claim, should be taught K through 12 and even into college only from an American perspective. Alternate views will only confuse, frighten, or make students prone to loathe themselves and their country. Texts and teachers who try to introduce more complex renderings of history undermine the American way of life and must be banished from the schools. The same applies to every subject, including literature, math, and science. Subversive authors must be rooted out to save the children and save America. Lists of these subversives have included, among others, Plato, Charles Darwin, Henry Miller, Eugene O'Neill, Carl Sandburg, John Steinbeck, D.H. Lawrence, Upton Sinclair, Sinclair Lewis, Pearl Buck, Ernest Hemingway, Theodore Dreiser, Allen Ginsberg, and Stephen Hawking, among many others. If you think that's crazy, or merely that I'm exaggerating here, in 2023, an Oklahoma school district which will not be named, Tulsa, banned math textbooks to protect children from subversive leftist ideas contained therein. No, I'm not kidding. That's what the parents and the school boards were saying. Now, I think I've hit on the argument for fearing this un-American math. Math required today is much more complex and sophisticated than even a generation ago, certainly more than when I was a mean little kid. And the parents struggle to try to help their kids with their math homework. In the minds of these self-anointed guardians of knowledge and culture, this undermines family values and erodes parental authority, all part of a deliberate, subversive, leftist conspiracy to destroy America. I know it doesn't add up, but remember, these are people who can't do math. Okay? There's nothing new here. Banning books, plays, films, all been justified for the same or similar reason. When I was a kid, back in the prehistoric era, Catcher in the Rye was banned in Fort Worth public schools because it had that word in it. You know the one. So was Lady Chatterley's Lover and Women in Love, along with all the rest of D.H. Lawrence's phenomenal works. Allen Ginsberg's collection of poems called Howl and Kerouac's On the Road were verboten. So were James Joyce's twin masterworks, Finnegan's Wake and Ulysses. Joyce was a particular hobgoblin of Texas school boards because he was a godless Catholic, or a godless atheist, or a godless atheist Catholic. In any case, they didn't like him. Huckleberry Finn and Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath were still considered suspect and unsuitable in many public schools, including Fort Worth. Both Candy and Lolita were definite no-nos, although they were popular with the teenage set. And I could have a lot to say about the evils of censorship, but I know someone who said it more succinctly and better. In 1962, testifying before a congressional committee, Frank Dobie, the greatest man of letters Texas has ever produced, said this: "Censorship is never to let people know, but always to keep them in ignorance. Never to bring light, but always to darken. It is and has for thousands of years been the main force used by tyrannical governments and dictators of all kinds, from Nero to Khrushchev, to suppress opposition." In Jefferson's words, Thomas Jefferson, "Error of opinion may be tolerated where reason is left free to combat it. All we are asking is that you leave reason free. Nobody can know what all the errors are. Wisdom will not die with us." And after the press hectored him relentlessly and violently, Thomas Jefferson still held that he would rather live in a country of free newspapers than in any sort of government under a well-meaning dictator without newspapers. Today, as it was 70 years ago, these suppressors of free thought and free inquiry are also launched on a national campaign to remove suspicious, immoral, subversive ideas and information from libraries. Grade school, high school, college, public, any library, every library, even to removing the very subversive works of Dr. Seuss from kindergarten bookshelves. Not only are they lobbying the authorities to accomplish this, they are seeking to become the authorities, running for seats on the local school board, governing bodies of public libraries, universities, boards of trustees, local governments, state legislature. Mr. Dobie also had a few words to say about, excuse me, the movement to purge public libraries. Books, and therefore libraries, contain all the inherited wit, wisdom, humor of life, the cream of all jests of all the centuries. The immortal residue of the human race lies in books, and in valuing libraries, we live more abundantly, we think more justly, and we love more delightfully. It's not just the conservatives or politicians or the media we should worry about and guard against. Excuse me. Tens of thousands of self-appointed guardians of public morals are even more dangerous a threat to the preservation of knowledge, liberty, and democracy than the demagogues that they hail as leaders. We would do well to remember Voltaire's cautionary admonition: those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. David Bromwich, the Sterling professor of English at Yale University, put it this way: persons advocating evil, whether in command or in the rank and file, must be strong and determined, and the lukewarm must be cowed or willing to go along because evil seems to prosper. Sound like anybody you know? Elected officials, co-workers, friends, neighbors, family members, me? Thomas Jefferson fought for free public education hundreds of years before America was persuaded that, hey, this might be a good idea. According to Jefferson, education was not to get you a good job. The purpose of public education was to equip every man and woman to be good and useful citizens of a free democratic republic. President Truman echoed those exact words in his famous Laramie speech in 1952 to the graduating class of the University of Wyoming. John Dewey, the iconic figure of American education, put it slightly differently when he said, democracy has to be born anew in every generation, and education is its midwife. Digging down to the core, this is a fight over certainty versus uncertainty. There are and always have been people and institutions who fear that information which contradicts or challenges what they believe is a danger. Just ask Copernicus or Galileo or Monty Python. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Of course, the Inquisition wasn't a joke to Cervantes or the thousands of people who suffered the auto de fe. Censorship is as old as society itself. Ancient Rome even had an official called a censor whose job was to suppress subversive behaviors and ideas. Every modern dictator has suppressed his nation's media, has tried to control its schools, worked hard to destroy sources of unapproved information. And as we sit here thinking comforting thoughts about all those radical conservatives who threaten the freedom of mind and heart, let's not forget ourselves and our fellow liberals who are equally dedicated to purging what they consider to be wrong ideas. Liberals and conservatives alike support parochial education and homeschooling, both of which are anchored in the supposedly sacred ground of parental choice. This segregation principle is based on two holy principles. One, I don't want my kid going to school with people not like themselves. And two, I don't want my kid exposed to ideas I don't agree with. Parochial education justifies its censorship on the basis of faith. K through 12, every subject is injected with a moral perspective of the particular creed at work, and often distorts or manufactures or omits facts in order to be consistent with those religious beliefs. The emphasis is on fortifying the mind of the student against learning of or considering other perspectives. And the educational materials designed for the religion class is pure indoctrination in the true faith. Homeschooling exercises a supposedly benign but similar form of censorship. In the homeschool movement, most of the educational materials currently available Curricula, lesson plans, teachers' guides, exercise books, and texts are prepared by organizations with links to fundamental Christian groups, so that all the subjects will be shaded toward a favorable view of their beliefs. There is a liberal homeschool movement. We have one right next door here. It's smaller, it's less biased, and with fewer sources of supply. But still, liberal or conservative, all homeschooling has two underlying dangerous flaws. It strongly implies that keeping to your own kind is a virtue, and that mistrust of those who are different from you is wisdom. Now, here in Texas, charter schools have long been the nose of the religious camel into the tent of public education. And now our Texas Texas legislature has sanctioned Bible study as a, for the moment, elective course in public schools. Not Quran study, not Upanishad study, but Bible study. Under the new law, the school board could decide to make it mandatory in a district. And in some districts, the individual school administrators could mandate Bible study. Well, so be it. There's little to choose between homeschool, parochial school, and charter school. This is not protecting children. It is making them less able to cope with or understand the real world. A world that is a riot of conflicting information and attitudes and beliefs. The world they will have to live in, and it will inevitably encourage them to retreat into their own silos and echo chambers, the ones that reassure them that theirs is the correct worldview, accept no substitutes. That engagement with others is dangerous, and any compromise is evil. The sense of individual autonomy and authority that justifies censorship impels some of our fellow citizens to promote censorship, and at the same time, as Unitarian Universalists and as citizens, we are impelled to oppose censorship. Even censorship of ideas we don't agree with. By our faith, by the Constitution, we are called upon to leave room, as Thomas Jefferson said, for reason and debate. We must engage in the public square to defend the right of everyone to form their own beliefs, to dispute, to persuade, to compromise, that we may establish and continue to grow into harmony with one another. Censorship does not create that world of harmony. It is the antithesis of harmony. It stifles curiosity and open inquiry. It makes ignorance and prejudice virtues in a well-ordered society. Censorship is one of the gateway drugs of tyranny. We must not stand idle witness to the disintegration of democracy. We must act. But what should we do? Surprise, I have a few suggestions. First, we need to pay greater attention to local politics, especially elections and meetings of city council and county governments and school boards. Second, wherever censorship touches on schools and libraries and public access to information, we should show up and we should speak up. Third, reach out and link up with like-minded citizens through the Tarrant Justice Network or Tarrant County Democrats or Raise Your Hand Texas, a statewide education lobby. That can help us identify candidates to support for office. You might even consider running for office yourself if you have the inclination and the time. Even PTA. But we must get off our broad political backgrounds. And it's not a cure, but it's a start. And if you think your little bit of effort won't make any difference one way or the other, heed the words of the British parliamentarian Edmund Burke. No one makes a greater mistake than he who does nothing because he can only do a little. And I think I have gone on long enough. So, I leave you with this benediction. If I can find it. Let us go forward from this place and read a banned book and then make a gift of it to someone else. Now, our closing hymn is going to be hymn number 345, With Joy We Claim the Growing Light. Conversation in the library immediately behind the sanctuary here. The service is ended. Oh, sorry. I'm leaving out the fire. Okay. I got my pages mixed up.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.